Welcome back to Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic Known Classics. This is episode number 1448 and Doubleshot number 1342. Now, these two trades, there's one from DC, one from Marvel. Now, this first trade here is from Matt Fraction, though it's the second trade to collect issues from his run for this particular series. This is The Mighty Thor by Matt Fraction, Volume 1. Excuse me. This collects the first 6 issues of the first volume of, The Mighty Thor. I say this is the second trade because there also is the World Eater storyline, which, no, I have not reviewed that yet, but I will review that sometime in the future. This, of course, is the opening story arc of the relaunched Mighty Thor series. This is technically Mighty Thor Volume 1, though you can kind of count this as like Thor Volume 4. That's kind of what this book is. Yeah, and this actually... Now, here's the thing about the title, Mighty Thor. That was the unofficial title for this long-running title for decades. But this actually is the first time this is the official name of the book. The Mighty Thor. This run lasted for 22 issues, and this trade here collects the first 6. This opening story arc is known as the Galactus Seed. Why the heck the trade is not called Mighty Thor Volume 1 Galactus Seed? No idea. This involves basically Thor taking on Galactus. As far as I can tell, I think this is the first time Thor has actually met up with Galactus. Ooh, probably first time in a long time. Probably not since the 70s. Though after this, next time Thor will encounter Galactus, it would be until 9 years later when Donny Coates writes the book, with a lot more interesting storyline. This book, the best way to describe this book is that not a lot of stuff happens in just these 6 issues alone. Basically, Galactus has come to Earth to get this piece of the world tree that somehow will satisfy his hunger. And yes, because Galactus is here, the Silver Surfer here as well. If you're curious though, when the issues came out, it was 10 years ago when the issues came out. Yeah, and this is just before the events of Fear itself. Yes, I'm not kidding about that. These issues came out just before the start of Fear itself, obviously. Yep, and we also have in here where Thor is in a sexual relationship with Lady Sif, because the first time you see Lady Sif, she is completely naked. By the way, happens twice, because Thor has sex with her twice. Which is something, though, because they've never depicted this before for Thor, where he's ever been with Lady Sif. I mean, these two have been sort of an on-off couple since the 60s. But as far as I can tell, they've never shown in bed together before. This is quite unusual. I mean, it has been hinted at for decades. These two have always had a thing for each other. But never been in bed together before. This is the first time, obviously. There's also stuff in here with Kid Loki. If you're curious about the Kid Loki thing, I think Fraction was responsible for that. Yeah, when he was brought back, I think it was just in the previous story arc, where Thor just found him in Paris of all places. And he, of course, is messing with the Destroyer for some reason. Yes. This is an okay story arc, per se, when it comes to Thor, but the book comes a lot better even after this book. Yeah, if I give this book roughly 8, 9 out of 10. Yeah. The thing with... Oh, I forgot to mention the artwork here. Excuse me. It's done by Oliver Capitelli. Mm-hmm. This artwork... Oh, yeah, there's also a bit of religious stuff in here. Yes. Not sure why. It's just that, well... That's what it is. The artwork in here is really good. I like this artist. The way he drew Galactus looked really good. But when you get to the way he draws characters like Thor, it's like, wow. It's like, okay, let's give Thor like a weird looking head. Let me give a good picture of him and see if I can find it here. Here we go. Here's Thor and Lady Sif together. I'm like, wow. What are the... I mean, I like the way they draw the bodies. They look pretty good. But the heads, like, Thor's head looks so weird. But that's how basically probably drawn in here by him. Yeah, it always seems as though whoever artist draws, and then draws them so differently. The artwork here is really good. It's a big high point for me when it comes to this book. Is the artwork? It's purely fantastic. The story is just okay. That's the best way just of it when it comes to this particular story arc. And don't worry, more trades to come for manufacturing for Thor. Interesting thing when it comes to manufacturing for Thor, it's not very long, surprisingly. Yeah, it's even shorter than his run for Iron Man. That was good. I love his run for Iron Man. My friend Edgar's not really a big fan of it because toward the end of the run, because what happened with the ending. But I love manufacturing for Iron Man. It is really freaking good. It feels as though with that book, he's a clear fan of the character and the fact he utilizes the villains. This book, he's probably just doing it because he's told to do it. But to have Thor take on Galactus in the opening story arc, that's in this book, it's fine. Don't have a problem with that at all. And Odin himself just came back to life. He was brought back in the previous story arc related to the World Years, which I will, like I said, we'll eventually review that. Of course, Fraction will bring back more characters in this book. Like in the very next story arc, he brings back the Enchantress. Yep, brings back the Enchantress. Which is interesting to say the least. Alright, moving on to this book here. This is The Metal Men, Elements of Change. Now, the interesting thing comes to this particular series. This 12-issue maxi series. The writer of this book is Dan Didio. Now, you probably are just saying, Dan Didio, you mean the guy who got fired by DC Comics last year? Yep. They actually fired him while this book was coming out. I'm not kidding about that. They seriously did it. They let him go, like, partway into this run. Yeah, partway into this run release, that's when they let him go. But I think he managed to finish this book before he left. Though there were various reasons why, I think it was due to budget cuts that cut him. He was a co-publisher of DC. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure, like, why he was let go. It's just that he was, because it just Dan Didio's been fired, and they let him go. They also let the editor-in-chief of Black Label go, which him I can understand, because even this guy did technically start the Black Label imprint. Like, I think overall people big part of the Black Label imprint is its delays. Like, oh my gosh. Like, sometimes books basically between every issue of any of their series when this guy was in charge kept coming out once every like 2 to 3 months. It just was released whenever they felt like releasing it. I'll talk more about Dan Didio when I finish talking about this book. Yeah, this is basically about Metal Men. Just a series about the Metal Men. And they're just basically just doing what they want to do. Like, fighting for the rights as individuals. Though this book, because Dan Didio writes it, he throws a couple people. One, he actually was responsible for creating this version of this character. And the other one, he didn't write the book as far as I know. Nope. The first character Ray Max in here, and this is a bit of a surprise. He brought back, hope I can find the page here. Not that one. He brings back frickin' O.M.A.C. Yes, O.M.A.C. Which I believe the last time he appeared prior to this was actually the pages of the Blue Beetle. Though the way he writes O.M.A.C. in here is quite interesting. I'm not really sure why he writes this way. Because here's the thing. The last time he wrote him was in the self-titled O.M.A.C. series that he wrote. Yep. And he spoke a lot different than he did back then. Here all he says is, I am O.M.A.C. I am O.M.A.C. I am O.M.A.C. That's all this freaking dialogue. No idea why. It's basically some kind of robot convention. And then we had the return of all people, Mother Machine for the Black Hawk title. Now, technically, the last time she appeared was actually in the Metalman feature from the series, limited series Legends of Tomorrow. And prior to that, her last appearance was way back in DC Universe number 0. Yeah, so she was part of the Black Hawk series, which was 8 issues, appeared in DC Universe number 0. That was back in 2012. Legends of Tomorrow didn't come out until 2015. Yep, 2015. 4 years later. And then right after this series wrapped up, like in 2016, her next appearance was for 3 years until this very book, where she appeared just for a couple issues, and that's it. It's interesting, though, he brings back Mother Machine because As far as I know, unlike O.M.A.C, which he is responsible for creating this character, not Mother Machine. No, not Mother Machine. As far as I know, Mother Machine herself was not a creation of Dan Slott. Let's see if I can find it here. Mother Machine was a creation of Mike Costa. Yes, Mike Costa. And Graham Nolan. That's who wrote it. Excuse me. Yes. Like I said, aside from the Blackhawk series and DC vs. Zero, appearing in 2 issues of the series and appearing in a few issues of Legends of Tomorrow. Yeah, not much this character at all. She appeared in like almost every issue of Blackhawk except for issue 6. Well, originally she was like a program for them, and then she just turned against them for some reason. I don't really know why. It just that's just basically the way it was. Yeah, they basically just made her just a. Basically, if I remember from reading the series, she was basically like the main computer for the Blackhawks. Though the way that Mike Costa wrote them, it's like these characters written be they were written be DC's version of G.I. Joe. That's simply put what these characters were written as. Though it's written by Mike Costa, a guy who has written some G.I. Joe stuff, but that's the way Mike Costa wrote the book. It's like it was written to be G.I. Joe. Mother Machine, I'm not exactly who she was supposed to be based upon. I don't really know. And it's something you might find interesting, though. The characters are still active. Yep, they are still active. Because in the case of, let's say, the leader, Andrew Ligon, after the series wrapped up, popped up in DC vs. Zero, in issue of Mr. Terrific, and appeared in the second half of Voodoo. But as for pretty much like everybody else, well, they popped up in a few issues. Well, the main group anyways. Yeah, and Mother Machine herself was part of Blackhawk's program. Well, I think she was. But it was just kind of weird. And she was an interesting villain per se. That the only problem with the character was Mike Haas didn't do much with her at all. Probably because the book got canceled due to low sales. At least they occasionally appear. It's like since series popped up and she just pops up here and there and that's it. And of course, because it's a Metaman series, like which character pops up in their book? Why, it's freaking Chemico. Of course it's Chemico. He's their arch nemesis, so of course he would show up every time. Yep. Now, I believe that the middlemen were not. I was thinking the creation of Jack Kirby, but I don't think so. Not really, no. The original version of Middlemen were created by Roger Gniger and Russ Audru. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's who created the Middlemen. They've been around since like Showcase 37. Yeah. I mean, the Middlemen are purely like one of my favorite group of characters because they're such interesting characters. It's a group of robots with awesome creative Will Magnus, and the fact that one of the characters, Tin, who's a female member of the group, that's her right there. She's always hanging on Will Magnus. Well, the reason why that she's like that because her personality is based upon Will Magnus's like fiance. That's the reason why for that, and the fact she's been in love with Magnus for all this time. But this book is just pure fun. I give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. It's a damn good book, and the artwork in here is done by Shane Davis, who did the awesome Superman Earth 1 series. Let me show up some interior artwork by the guy. Yeah, this guy is really good artist. Now, things that people now think about Dan Didio is, how do I feel about basically him being let go? Well, I'm sad to see someone lose their job. That's always a terrible thing. But here's the thing comes to Dan Didio. I have heard from comic creators that he is responsible for hiring them. Like Kurt Busiek, Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Conner. There is no denying from hearing from these creators when they heard that he got let go from DC that he had a good eye for talent. There's no denying that. It's just his ideas for comics were so mixedly received. And the guy didn't do very much at all for comics wise. I mean, his first comic he gave out was a Halloween special. Excuse me, back in 2008. Yeah, that was the first thing he wrote. He's wrote series here, and I think prior to this, I think that like the last series he wrote was Infinity Man and the Forever People, and that was back in like 20. I think last just came out in 2015. I think it was. So it's been 4 years since he did anything. But the guy is extremely controversial when it comes to his views on comics. Like, for instance, his frequent attempts to kill off Dick Grayson. He has tried to kill this guy off 3 times over the course of a 15-year period. Yes, 3 times over the course of 15 years. The first time was going to be an Infinite Crisis. And I've discussed this with Chuck Dixon. Even he agreed that trying to kill off Dick Grayson is an absolute terrible idea. And that was the original plan. They were going to kill him off then. But somebody would tell him, no, that'd be a terrible idea. And then, no less than 7 years. Yeah, 7 years later, they tried again. This time in Forever Evil. And you're probably thinking, Infinite Crisis, Forever Evil, Jeff Johns books. I'm sure Jeff Johns did not want to kill off Dick Grayson at all. I'm sure he probably had nothing against the character at all. Though this time, they actually did try to succeed in killing him by having Lex Luthor snap his neck. Yep, though by the very next issue, back to normal. Though I know that probably everybody hated the fact that Dick Grayson had been killed off by Lex Luthor. And then, oh my gosh, it had been no less than about 6 years later. Once again, we basically go through this again. Yeah, I think it was 6 years later. Yeah, about 6 issues later. 6 years later, excuse me. In the year 2018, in Batman 55, once again we attempt to kill off Dick Grayson. This time, with a bullet to the head. Done by the KG Beast. And I'm sure everybody... Now, I'm sure that Tom King... Yeah, Tom King was responsible for this one this time. I don't think this is his idea at all. I mean, I know the guy got death threats for Batman 50, but I don't think he got death threats for this. No, I think even people understood this was probably not his idea to do. It was probably... the whole thing, the reason for this... Well, there was a reason for it. And so they could do the stupidness that was Rick Grayson. Oh my gosh, Rick Grayson. By far, one of the dumbest ideas. And as far as I can tell, there was no one behind this at all. The readers clearly didn't give a damn about this. People hated this. Heck, I didn't like it at all. Because I thought this was a stupid idea. I mean, come on. Rick Grayson? A team of Nightwings? This is so stupid. I did like the fact they actually wore his old costume. I did appreciate that. But, man, this whole idea was stupid. Excuse me. I'm sure even Dan Jurgens, when he came on board, like, he basically cleaned up a mess that's got a bit left when he came on the book. trying to think what else that was good. Was that he didn't like about his ideas? Oh yeah, oh boy, the aborted marriage of Batwoman and Maggie Sawyer, planned by the creative team of the book, Haden Blackman and J.H. Williams III. This was one of the ideas, one of two things they wanted to do in Cat and Batwoman. The other one was creating a new backstory for Killer Croc. Now, that one probably didn't get much reception when that was killed off. What was basically one of the dumbest things that happened was that the wedding that was planned, I think a lot of people assumed was going to happen in the next annual, or at least issue 50. No, 50, more like 30-ish. Nope. Cancelled because apparently Dan Didio didn't want to do it at all. Like, apparently he didn't want to do a actual wedding. I don't think he had anything against a lesbian wedding. No, that was not it. He just didn't want a superhero wedding. Because, superheroes relationship is boring. And no one can write superhero marriages. Oh, you suck at that, Dan Didio. Because what happened with O.M.A.C. Yeah, I know the guy got tons of flack for it. I don't think he got death threats for it. As far as I know, Dan Didio did not get death threats for his stupid comments related to super marriage. Well, apparently, none of the superheroes DC, with the exception of Animal-Man, were not married. And there's been a theory rolling around for the past several years that was the reason why Jeff Johns left Aquaman. Because he had been writing Aquaman and Mera as a married couple. He's like, really? That's news to me. Some believe that is the reason why he left the Aquaman title. Which, yeah, I can kind of buy that. And then the whole thing of basically delaying trying to have these two get married until like the final issue of Killers of Honker, which I will discuss in the future. But man, the whole idea of preventing, just taking away super marriages is by far like a really dumb idea in concept. Like, prior to the one they had recently, what was the last time DC ever actually did an actual superhero wedding? An actual on-panel wedding. The last one was Green Arrow and Black Canary. Marvel actually have their most recent one, actually just is happening right now, an actual wedding, where they try and marry off Doctor Doom. Yes. The whole marriage thing was, him being against super marriages was dumb. Trying to kill off Dick Grayson was dumb. I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, the whole idea with the New 52 and the DCU. Now, he did not take the blame for New 52. Oh no. Even though he wanted to do that for a few years. But from what I heard, the reason why he was finally able to do it was because DC Comics got a new president at that point. So that's why he was able to do it in 2011. I'm sure a lot of comic creators at that point were not happy with the fact they had to do a reboot. Yeah, they hated the idea of reboot. And now I know he has taken, he accepted full responsibility for what happened with DCU. I kind of wish he would do that for New 52. I mean, yeah, we got some good books out of the New 52 stuff. But some of the other stuff was just utter garbage. I mean, one of the worst books people think was Superman, who suffered really bad when it comes to New 52. Well, they apparently didn't read Green Arrow because apparently Green Arrow had so much inconsistency. It seems like every writer who came on board will keep the characters in the book, but ignore all these stories. Kept ignore. As soon as a new creator came on board, it felt like a restart of the title with the same characters. And that should be talked about a lot more, is Green Arrow's inconsistency for over a period of 8 years. From the 2011 relaunch to the ending in 2019. This should be talked a lot more on how much the editors of this book did not give a damn. And Dan Didio told the others, please do your damn job and keep the book consistent for all this period of time. Now, I'm going to blame that on him because he couldn't keep the editors doing their job. He also hated the whole thing of 52. He hated the series. So he lobbied for another weekly series, Countdown, a book that was notorious for the editor being asleep at the wheel and basically having 51 artists and having like four writers in the book and having no consistency in the entire series. That's another thing you can blame on him. Inconsistency for that series too. Which, that I think he probably has taken a lot of flack for, but I think he should also take flack for Green Arrow. Yeah. I'm trying to think, was anything else that he got that basically was a really dumb idea? That basically, in the case of like Superman Wonder Woman hook up, I don't know if he's taking credit for that. I have no idea if he ever did. Nope, I have no idea. But I'm not going to talk much more about Dan Didio. I mean, he has been discussed thoroughly enough by a lot of people on YouTube over the last several years on how much basically this guy is clearly out of touch and has the most worst ideas for comics. But at least he was a good talent scout. Yeah, him and hiring people he was actually really good at. Yep. Excuse me. But yeah. Excuse me. Not much else to say about these two books. Memo is good. The Matt Fraction Thor book was okay. Yep. So yeah, that's the particular review, and that's probably going to be it for video today because I don't think I have time to do anything else today, okay? So tomorrow, expect to see reviews for Don't Toy Me, Miss Nagaro, and Case Closed, okay? See you in the next video. Bye.